Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Ron Nicoletti here to tackle this Thursday afternoon. We had a couple of days off, but definitely a big event yesterday at the Facet Tictum sale. We had a sales topper of $1.8 million by Tappet, actually.
Well, you know, those Tappets go for a lot of money. Lots of fun seeing those people here, and they come into the ring. We had a couple of horses that sold for over $1 million, too.
Yes.
Lots of fun to watch it happen. You don't really get a chance the last couple of years. They've had the Facet Tictum sale here, so we got to watch it. I'm always amazed at the amount of money that people pay for those horses, and Tappets usually run well.
It was my first time actually being at the sale here specifically, and it was definitely an event. It was very crowded. It was an amazing spectacle to definitely see. Looking at last weekend, though, we had some amazing performances. Obviously, Mohaymen, it feels like it was weeks ago, but some really nice performances. As we did see that kind of carry over to this week, we have some really nice races coming up on Saturday, some excellent stakes races, but also some excellent carryovers for today's card. So we'll take a look at some of those featured wagers and our carryovers. We do start it all off in race one, that rolling super high five, $20,000 in that carryover. And you and I both know when it's a smaller dirt field and we have a carryover like that, they absolutely hammer this bet.
Yeah, I've seen it go from like 30, 40,000 up to 300,000. So yeah, keep your eye on the board, and it's a great bet. And you have to pick the first 5 finishes in order to bring down the rolling super high five.
And as we stay on race one, this does kick off the 50-cent early pick five. You have a ticket. We'll get to it in a second. And as we get to race 6 on today's program, the 20-cent rainbow pick 6 does kick off $2.1 million, and growing. Race 7 kicks off the 50-cent late pick 5 as well. We have 11 races on top, a lot of ground to cover, and we'll start it all off with race 1. We'll start it off with your early pick 5 ticket.
Yeah, let's take a look at it right now. You see I have a $36 ticket I put together. Went 3 deep in here, 1, 2, 7. Then you see 2, 4 with 1, 5, 1, 4. And in the 5th race, I ended with 3, 5, and 8 for a $36 ticket. I went a little deep in here. Big favorite on the board right now, very early in the wagering with the 2 horses, one that I used. But there's a couple other horses in here that I had to put on my ticket.
Okay, the 2 Unintimidated again is one that's getting some early money right now at 1 to 5 for trainer Dave Fox. And this horse ran his race and debut. I had a stronger opinion about others, but you do land on him as your top selection.
Yeah, he's stretching out to 7/8 of a mile after that promising 6.5 furlong debut in which he finished second. He finished second to a drifting out front-running winner that was going 6.5 furlongs. So I just thought this horse, was a logical choice. I don't know about the 1 to 5. You got to ignore that right early on because it might be just one wager early on in the betting, so we'll see how that works out. But I did put that horse on top of my ticket.
The 1 Blind Ruckus is a horse that you and I both use, and we'll go back and take a look at this horse's most recent replay on November 15th, and did experience a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, really had a steady sharply in this race going up there, and you see it right there. And I thought that the horse lost all chance. What I liked about this horse was facing some solid maiden special weight runners, competition across town at Gulfstream Park West. You saw that race where he had a steady on November 15. Vaughn Hurd is the trainer. Gelding has a solid half-mile drill. So I just thought this horse, off that performance, the level of competition was facing, could run well in this spot.
And that was an interesting replay to go back and revisit because it almost looked like he was extremely green in there as well, and he never really got it. It never really clicked until late, so hopefully he can move forward off of that performance. And this is a really nice restricted maiden special weight to come in off of that brief freshening here. We haven't seen him since obviously November. The 3 Cotton Colors is one I'll stick with one last time. I do think it's more of a lateral move. He faced a pretty good for level maiden 75 level, and now he's going against restricted maiden special weight company. We saw how Yellow Chips ran that day, just kind of ran away from the rest of the field, and the barn does very well with horses coming second off of the freshening there. So that's interesting. The 7 Good Genes is another one who I really liked last time out, and he was decently bet early, I believe, and he actually went off at 6 to 1 off of that layoff since May, making his seasonal debut. He was involved in strong early fractions, and I just think that he was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in the early stages of the race, and now at 7 furlongs, I think he might be able to settle a little bit kinder.
Yeah, and he broke from that tough outside post last time out. It was post 12. Your trainer is Stanley Goley, worked him a half-mile bullet, 47 flat, which was the best time of 88 horses at the distance coming into this race. So I believe the improved post and the distance is really going to help this horse this afternoon. I had to use it on my early pick 5 ticket.
Okay, yes, you're using 3 horses to kick it off in the early pick 5. We'll take a look at the second race, a maiden 12,500 event, going the 1-turn mile onto the main track. And the 2 Prime Time Tommy does look to be the horse to beat on the class drop alone.
Yeah, he's dropping to this 12-5 level in the first start since showing some early interest. He faded in. It was a key race. It was a $35,000 maiden test going a mile in the slop, a race that has produced a pair of next out winners from 6 starters. Looks like the logical choice on paper in here. One of the horses I also used on my early pick 5 ticket.
And you could proceed with a little bit of caution because his race was so bad last time out. But actually, if you look at his previous performances against tougher company, especially maiden special weight company back in 2014 when he was on a track that had a little bit of moisture in it, he really did not show up in that event either. So considering it was a sloppy seal track, I think it could have been one of his worst performances. And now getting back to a drier track, we could see a different horse. So I'm not as cautious about a horse like this as you usually are with class droppers. I think this is a necessary move down. The 3 Templar Warrior, though, is an interesting one for Juan Rodriguez. My only concern with him is he really has no natural early speed. He's very slow.
Yeah, he's a late striding type. We responded last time out to that drop in competition. 3rd place finish at this level in distance, but he's got suspect pace in front of him.
Yes.
So if that pace should, maybe weaken or collapse, might set up for a horse like the number 3 Templar Warrior.
And I agree with you. We have a horse like Big Thunder who showed no speed in debut, but he's stretching out to the mile. The 1 Grand Identidad. I do think that the fastest early horse in the race is the 4 Leonidas de Roma. But like you said, suspect pace because he hasn't proven in the past that he can really go the mile with his speed.
Yeah, he's going to try and save something more for the stretch run. He set that pressured pace. He finished second in consecutive races at this level and distance. So right there, the red flag comes up. It looks like, he drops back a little bit in the stretch. Leon Monot is the trainer, and he's got 7-pound apprentice John Cruz in the saddle, so getting in light. So maybe that is enough to make this horse, I believe, maybe go wire to wire this time out.
He could, and that was one thing that I considered as well, picking him on top, because if he does get alone on the lead, he could be very dangerous. But he has been shown that he duels a little bit early and then just doesn't fire late. So that's why I had to go against him here today. We'll move on to the 3rd race, a 30,000 conventional claimer, 6 furlongs onto the main track. And we have the likes of the 1 Blame Dixie. First off the claim for Eddie Keneally. And this filly hasn't been in very good form lately. She was a runaway winner last time out, and she does look to be the horse to beat. What did you like mostly about her?
Well, Blame Dixie claimed in back-to-back races as stepping up to this $30,000 3 lifetime condition claiming level. A return from that 6-week freshening to crush a field of $16,000 2 lifetime claimers going 5 furlongs, albeit that was in the slop. Eddie Keneally, good stats on this guy.
Well, we'll take a look at those stats, actually, over the past couple of years. First off the claim on the dirt alone, he's 23% and he finishes 42% in the money, but it's still a negative ROI. So the way that I see it is a lot of the times his horses are decently bet and they have a tendency to underperform. So that was the only concern that I had with this horse. Well, the other concern about this filly is that she's been running on scheduled turf races, and now she gets to a scheduled dirt race. So by virtue of that circumstance, she has been facing slightly easier competition, and mainly turf competition. That was my main concern with her.
Yeah, and I could understand that. Just thought, looking at the past performances in the race, off that last race, I just thought this one would be the beat there. But, I could see you going the opposite way with the number 5 horse in there, Arilla Princess.
And I found an interesting stat on the Mike Trombetta barn, and we'll throw that stat up here. First off the claim on the dirt with jumps up in class after the claim. 5 for 9, 56%, a positive ROI of $3.28, and almost 100% actually in the money. So they always run well. She gets Louis Saez here, and I just thought that her back form actually made her competitive against this level too. She used to be competitive against 30,000 non-winners of 2. So I'm kind of working off her back form and by the fact that the barn does very well with these steps up in class off the claim.
Yeah, she was a wide second last time out. She made that move. She finished second against 12-5 condition claimers going 7-8. It's a daughter of Limestone, and I think she finds the ideal spot to step up to competition this afternoon.
It is. It's kind of a smaller field. You question what direction some of these other horses are headed in. You get a horse like Blame Dixie, who might be a little bit better on the dirt. The two might be a little bit better on the dirt. So I agree with you. This is a perfect spot to step her up in class. The 4 Spectacular Flash is one that figures. She's just consistent against this level in the past couple of starts. There's not really anything more you can contribute to that.
Just turning back today, just slightly to 3/4 of a mile. Thinks the horse you put on the ticket.
Okay, we'll go to the 4th race on the card, a $30,000 conditional claimer, 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and we'll go right into the replay of Cap in Hand, and this was back on the 4th of February. This is a horse who really had no room to run.
No, he really got on the inside. He really got shut off in there. As you'll see, he's renewing the rivalry with Gunderson. As you see, he searched for racing room on the turn, and then he had a steady one trying to make that room move along the inside. And I just thought he never really got a chance to show what he could do in here. So I just think with a clean trip, he can be on the ticket. I still think Gunderson's the one to beat, especially on a turf course that's been favoring speed over the last few days.
That was bad too. That last race, obviously, I thought Paco Lopez did a great job saving ground going into that first turn, kind of a shorter run going in the first turn, but obviously there's nothing that you can do when you're down inside on the rail and there's no room to run, so he just kind of reserved him for a later day. This is a perfect spot for him. He has been facing tough company, open condition, so I like him in here as well. The 4 Gunderson you have to respect. My only concern with this horse was he had no excuses last time out. He went on the lead, he tried to slow the pace down, and he just could not fire going the mile. Maybe he could take a step forward on a firmer course today, but at the price you're potentially getting with Javier Castellano in the saddle, I decided to take a little bit of a shot with the 8 Liberal Spin. Jason Service does a great job with these types of horses, and I primarily think that this horse is a closing sprinter. So even though the 7.5 furlongs is, you know, a 2-turn sprint, and you kind of go back and forth between, well, is this a sprint, is this a route, is this a middle distance? It looks like this distance should probably fare him well. Nick Boras back in the saddle, and I think he gets to a more preferred surface. But I agree with you. Cap in Hand probably should have won last time out.
Yeah, I really believe in Gunderson is dropping back. You mentioned, just want to go back to that horse a minute. Javier Castellano, as you mentioned, the saddle low price, but Javier is going to ration his horse's speed on the front end, and it might make the difference this afternoon. Cap in Hand for the reasons we showed you. And the other horse I threw in was the 5 Midnight Notes, who's back in the claim ranks, cut him back to 7.5 furlongs. He shipped him from Aqueduct, and he finished 4th in the Little Magician that day. So I just thought, you know, maybe in this spot here, this horse can run well.
Okay, we'll move to the 5th race on the card, the final leg of the early pick 5, 6,259 winners of 3 lifetime condition, going the 1-turn mile onto the main track. And we'll go back and take a look at the break. Actually, on the 5th of February, and several horses actually come out of this race, including the 2 World Changer, as well as Mutaka and Belsize Park. And we'll take a look at the break here, because I honestly thought that the horse that was most compromised by the break was the 2 World Changer. You can see he broke a little bit off stride. He was bumped in between horses, and then he was obviously taken back. He also looks like a horse that doesn't have a lot of speed. So when that happens, it takes some time to regroup, get back in the game, and start running again. And I thought that was the case with him. He might be one that you can respect, even though he has been out of form in the past couple of starts. I remember he was really well bet for Jamie Ness last time out, and he didn't get off to a good start. This is a horse that needs to be involved earlier to be most effective, in my opinion.
Yeah, and ridden today by Vicente Guidel, the 2nd choice, I believe, on the morning line, or 3rd choice on the morning line. I did go with a horsing here. We don't have any horsing the same in this race, so this is one of the races where you might want to, want to spread a little bit. I went with the 6, Seeking the Perfect, was given some time off. He's going to race without the blinkers this afternoon after that 4-wide journey on the wet track listed as good, produced the 6th place finish. But I like the workout pattern. You know the barn. I don't have to tell you about George Navarro, what he's been doing. This horse, I like the workout pattern at Gulfstream Park West in preparation for return. I don't know if this horse, 8-1 in the morning line. I'm going to hope I get 8-1 in the morning line for George Navarro, Eddie Castro in the saddle.
He's always very, very dangerous, and I definitely could have used him here. The blinkers do come off. The 5 Mutaka is an interesting one for me, and this is, I know I'm picking a horse who was 2 for 40. I know that going into here, but he actually is only 0 for 4 on a fast main track. So that's something you do have to consider, and this is where you get value, because this horse spent the majority of his career on the turf. He's 1 for 20 on the turf, and yes, he might just not have any follow-through or have a will to win, but he's the type of horse that I really like getting back to a fast main track. When he was on a fast main track, he ran against a very good for level field. We saw Right On Ready, a next out winner, Social Roy, a next out winner, and he didn't run badly whatsoever. The price you're potentially going to get on him, going back to a fast main track, we'll see how it works out. I'm a little, I'm proceeding with caution with a 2 for 40 horse, but still, that's where you get a little bit of value.
Well, that's a good angle because he's been on the wet track the last 3 races, so getting back to that fast surface might just be what Mutaka needs to get the job done.
Okay, and with that said, that's races 1 through 5. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 sequence and the Pick 5 sequence. We do have a nice carryover in the Pick 6, $2.1 million right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Now we'll take a look at the Pick 6. Once again, we have a $2.1 million carryover today, and I have a very affordable ticket, surprisingly so, $43 and change. We'll take a look at the sequence here. 5-8 to kick us all off, using the 2-3-7 in race 7. I couldn't find a single today, but I thought that it was a very interesting sequence, using the 2-12 in race 8, in race 9, 3-6-9, 3-4-5 in race 10, capping it all off with just the 3 and the 8 in today's finale. We'll start with race 6, a 30,000 non-winners, a 2 lifetime event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and we'll take a look at natural order. And this horse's last replay, actually, is coming out of a performance on the 17th of February. And you can see this horse, the 6 natural order. The thing that I was paying attention to about this race was I thought it was very strong, because you look at the fractions going a mile and a 16th. The turf had a little bit of cut in it. And he went strong early fractions. And I honestly thought that he did the majority of the dirty work. We see an outside closer come out and nip him at the wire, but altogether, this horse will get bet, but I do think he is a legitimate horse in this spot.
He's a legitimate horse, and I mentioned a couple of races ago, speed has been much better. If you go back and look at the recent races here run on the Gulfstream Park turf course, with the weather now changing and been beautiful weather the last couple of days, speed has been doing very well, and I think this is going to help this horse. And I am in total agreement with the number 5, Natural Order.
He did a great job hanging in there, to be honest. I thought it was a very, very solid performance. We'll take a look at the 8 Madrus in here, and I don't have to tell this once again, but I'm going to throw it up one more time. Mike Maker, first time turf, second off the claim. His numbers are just too good to overlook. 33%, 50% in the money, and you still get paid over $4 for that ROI. This is over the course of the past couple of months. He is by Indian Charlie, Malibu Moon on the bottom side. I thought that his race was okay last time out, and he's a horse with a pedigree that could definitely move forward on the turf.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement once again with you on this one. It's the son of Indian Charlie. He's bred to love the grass today, and as you mentioned, Javier Castellano handling that surface switch this afternoon. Just split the 2 horses that you had on your Rainbow 6 ticket with the 3, who does his best running from off the pace. I think he should be primed and ready to offer more after returning from professioning. He was finished 6th, but he was only beaten 2.5 lengths in that race against similar going a mile. It's Mike Maker. You mentioned Mike Maker. He's got a couple in here, and this is Julian Leperoux, fits this running style perfectly. This one's going to be running best of all in the latter stages of the race.
And I am a little bit concerned leaving him off, but I thought that the 5 Natural Order just ran such a good race last time out. Madrus, Javier Castellano is attracted to this horse here today. He's got the pedigree to move up on a turf. The 7 Runseichi is a horse that I'll just throw in at a big price, because he's capable of very good races. He's also capable of very bad races. What horse are we going to get today? I don't know, but I thought his race was too good 2 starts back. He kind of split horses. Visually, it was very impressive. What happened to him last time out, I'm not so sure. I can't make a case pace for him, but he's a horse that he is capable of much better races.
And being it's only a 20-cent wager in the Rainbow Six horses like that, you might want to throw in your ticket because that one's going to be a price.
Absolutely. We'll take a look at the 7th race, an open $16,000 claiming event, a mile and a 16th off on the turf, and we do have a late pick 5 that starts in this race, and I believe you have a ticket.
Yeah, and you could not find a single, and I did in race number 8, the number 11 W, who did not use. We're going to show a replay of that horse's last race. When we get to the 8th race, you see, went 4 deep in here, used my long shot in here, which is, the 8 horse, and I just thought the single there made me use a couple of more horses. $36 ticket after the single of W, 3 deep, 2 deep, and 3 in the final leg of the day, race 11.
Okay, well, hopefully you can get your single home there. Race 7 on the card, though, an interesting race. The 2, Change of Command. This is an interesting horse, an old, hard-knocking 9-year-old, a 10-time winner. Obviously, he's earned almost $500,000. I love this horse. I love to watch him run, too. Now, under the previous connections, it's always very hard to claim off of a trainer like George Navarro. But if anyone's going to improve off of a previous trainer like George Navarro on the turf, it's going to be Mike Maker. And I thought this horse was completely taken out of his comfort zone 2 starts back when he was taken off the pace. This is a horse who's capable of going very fast at longer distances, 7.5 furlongs. They took him way off the pace, and I don't think that that's his running style. He likes to be closer, so I think this is a more preferred distance. Hopefully he gets a little bit closer to the lead than where he was 2 starts back, and a positive or a lateral trainer switch today.
And you go back and look at this horse. You mentioned Hard Knock and Campaigning. He set the pace in both the Grade 3 Pan Am and the Grade 2 McDarmina last winter. As you mentioned in the Mike Maker one, this horse has got a ton of back class, and I think he can run very well. And I'm totally agreeing with you. Put him right on top of the ticket.
That was my question, was this is a horse that's so effective on the lead. Why take him so far back 2 starts back? But again, maybe he just didn't have a lot of speed coming off the freshening. I couldn't really understand why, but nonetheless, he still ran a game race. Other than him, there are some nice horses. The 7 Lucky Kitten is one of them, and he very well, if the 2 Change of Command decides to go, he could give him a run for the money on the front end.
Yeah, and I think the scratch of a couple of scratches here, one of them being Carly Ray's Warrior was the speed in here. I think Lucky Kitten's going to be have an easier time on the front end, especially, as you say, if they take the 2 change of command back early.
One last horse, a 3 Hidden Val, I'm really interested in, because last time out, he did get into a little, it was reserved early, yes, but going into the final turn, he was so wide, and I wish this horse would have saved just a little bit of ground going into that final turn. That said, he had a decent amount of late energy. I do think that the 7.5 is a little bit too short for him, so now he stretches out to a more preferred distance, and he really does fit the flow of the race if you consider if Change of Command is going to go and if Lucky Kitten is going to go too.
Absolutely sets up perfect. He's a late running type, and he's going to carve out a really nice trip in here. And you mentioned the stretch out to a mile in the 16th, and I think that's key for that horse.
Okay, we'll move on to the 8th race here at Gulfstream Park, the maiden $25,000 event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf. And we'll start it off with the 11 Dabria and go back to this filly's most recent replay. Today, the blinkers do go on, but we'll let you talk about this race. Obviously, the head-on coming down the stretch.
Yeah, the head-on coming down the stretch, and Dobby is right there. And if you watch the whole race, dueling all in there, and it's the winners, the eventual winners on the inside, just pushes this horse out in the stretch. I don't know how much it cost it, the race there, but I just thought up that performance, getting pushed out at the end. Even the pan shot, you see it more, just took the horse off stride for the last, in a critical point of the race. So I put this one on top of my ticket, and like I said, got bopped by the eventual winner. I do not remember if there was an inquiry or a claim of foul in that race.
So.
I don't think there was, but I just thought of the performance. Had to find a single on my ticket to keep it in my range of $36, so I went with Dabria on top of my ticket. But I can understand the 12 also being on everyone's ticket, and that's Spring Mountain Mist.
I don't want to go against your single. I don't. But this was a very interesting set, and I wouldn't have showed it if it wasn't jaw-dropping. The 11 Dabria, we'll take a look at George Weaver over the past 5 years on the turf with blinkers going back on. He's only 2 for 51, 4%, obviously a negative ROI. So I found that, and going back and watching this filly's replay too, yes, she was kind of drifted out throughout the stretch, but she just didn't want to go past that horse to her inside. So I can understand why the blinkers go back on her, because it could make her a little bit more competitive down the stretch. The 12 Spring Mountain Mist is interesting to me, because I thought that she showed speed, obviously, again, slightly tougher last time out against Maiden 35 Company. The winner got a perfect setup. I believe it was a Chad Brown class dropper. She kind of drew away from the field by almost 5 lengths. I just think the light bulb kind of suddenly clicked on her. I love horses that show some speed and then take, obviously, a little bit of a cutback in distance to more of a sprint distance.
You know, I picked the 11 W on top, but I was concerned about her post, and I'm also concerned about the 12 Spring Mountain Miss post. I agree totally what you said about this one, you know, yielding late to finish third against $25,000 types. Is that outside post going to hurt this horse or not today? If I could have gone deeper, I would definitely have this horse on the ticket, especially since you showed that stat on George Weaver's horse.
It was so interesting. I couldn't look past it, but the 2 Sassy Spirit, we kind of go in different directions in terms of horses that have kind of an inside post. The 3 Love Years, I think, is dangerous. The 2 Sassy Spirit was one. She was about 3 wide going into the first turn. She was bumped and shuffled around just at a key point in the race when she was just about to make her move. Now, yes, she did kind of taper off from there, but that was a key part of the race where she was getting into gear to make her move. Altogether kind of flattened out. The 3 Love Years does make sense, though, for George Navarro.
Yeah, dropping 10,000 on the claiming scale, bumped at the start, got parked 5 wide on the turn in that race, beaten 2 3/4 lengths against $35,000 maidens. George Navarro, you mentioned, he's solid with horses making the second start back from a 45 to 180-day layoff. And one thing I've learned at this meet, leaving George Navarro off your tickets, whether it's on the bottom part of the ticket or on the top part, you can get hurt.
Anything, yes, anything, anywhere. We'll take a look at race 9 on the card at 6,250 non-winners, a 2 lifetime event, and a key scratch of the 8 Wild in the Streets. And looking at the rest of the field here, the 9 Secret War does come out of a race where she faced slightly tougher company.
Yeah, I mean, she's plunging to the 6,252 lifetime level after stalking the pace, finishing 4th at the same distance. That was 12-5. Open company. What we mean by open company, multiple winners in that race. This is a condition claiming race. Just thought this was the logical spot for number 9, Secret War.
It is. It's a big class relief. We saw Panetta, Ashy Poo kind of step up to tougher levels and really hold form. My only concern with her, and I pick her on top, was does she want to go this far? But from that outside post position, they may get aggressive and she could just sit that outside controlling position. So you have to respect her on the class drop. The 6 Petit Lapin is an interesting one who has been facing similar company. We haven't seen much follow through with her. She is 1 for 25.
Yeah, 1 for 25. He figures to grab a share, and he responded to both that surface switch and some class release with that 3rd place showing at this level and distance.
Okay, the 10th race on the card, a nice 2 other than allowance optional claiming event, a 1 1/16 out on the main track. And this was, I thought this was a very interesting race because there's a potential for some horses to have a lot of speed. Who's actually going to go? I thought the pace scenario was very interesting in this race. We have a horse like Jack Tripp, who's very fast. We have a horse like Tennessee, who's getting, who stays at the 1 1/16, but obviously showed speed last time out. And Savoy Stomp, who's been sprinting, now getting more distance. So the pace scenario is interesting. I can't fault you for going to the 4 Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee in for the $62,500 tag in this optional claimant. Some people noticed that. Now, why not in for the allowance conditions, making his first start? As you mentioned, he set that pace on the muddy track. He came within the neck of winning at this level and distance. It's Todd Pletcher, Johnny V returning. It's $150,000 Son of Giants Causeway. You mentioned Savoy Stomp, but I can understand. We got similar selections up there. The 5 Tarpey Surprise, 8 from 10 in the money at the distance.
This horse has just proven that he's kind of versatile in a sense that he can sit behind some of the potential pace setters in here. I do think that the 6 Jack Tripp is probably the fastest early, but this is a horse who he hasn't really been effective when he's made the lead and dueled early. He's been more effective when he has a little bit of a target in front of him, and that's exactly what he's going to get today. He's coming into this race with good form. Yes, he was beaten by Tennessee last time out, but I think the dynamics of the race are completely different, and he'll improve getting back to a fast main track. The 3 Savoy Stomp is a horse that you use as well. And early entry was impressive. Now this horse has to prove that he can stretch back out to a route of ground.
Yeah, just another horse from the Pletcher juggernaut is stretching out around the 2 turns after rallying, finishing that repeat winner, early entry, who won a $60,000 starter stakes in his next those races that we had on President's Day. This horse came back. That was going 7 furlongs. The horse, Javier Castellano, rides this half of the uncoupled entry. A lot of people follow the jockeys with Todd Pletcher. So I just thought that this horse probably going to take all the money in here.
He actually got a 104 Beyer speed figure. I think that horse, that early entry that exited to go on and went on President's Day. So he is coming out of a very key race indeed. We'll wrap it up with the race 11, the final race on this program, a maiden $25,000 event, 5 furlongs out on the turf course. We do have a couple of scratches in here, but the horse to beat, most likely here, is the 8, It's Too Hot Benny. First off the claim for trainer George Navarro, who does very well. Looking at statistics, we're not throwing anything up here, but first off the claim with turf sprints, 44% and still a positive ROI. They run into the money 63% of the time. They just always seem to deliver.
Yeah, he's going to go to wear blinkers this afternoon. He dual for lead, finished second in our 6 furlong career debut. That was on the sealed, sloppy track. The only concern I had about this, the daughter of Yes by Jiminy, is the so-so turf breeding. It's not really, strong turf breeding, but you mentioned the connections, one to beat in there. But I can understand going a different way, maybe with the 3 horse that you put on top, and that is Loud and Lovely.
Well, this is the first time that Jamie Ness actually acquires this horse, previously trained by Doug Saylor and even Juan Arias before. Jagger Inc., they obviously bring this horse in for the connections. I believe Jagger is the actual ownership for Jamie Ness. So I thought that that was a very interesting move here. And she's obviously proven herself against decent company in the past. This is a lateral move. She should be well positioned down on the inside. There's a lot of positives. Jamie Ness does a fantastic job with these maiden claimer turf sprinters too. So I thought that she was decently, she's decently positioned here, but one horse that has an interesting case about her is the 10, Hiram's Mistress here for Wesley Ward. And this is one that the blinkers come off. Not a really vote of confidence that they debuted her at the maiden claiming level with a 7-pound apprentice. But it's interesting now, coming back, they've gone back to the drawing board, blinkers off, and now Edgar Prado in the saddle.
Yeah, now those karma changes produce a winning performance. Her first start since September of 2015. Look at Wesley Ward's stats with horses returning from a longer than 180-day layoff. He's batting about 40%. So a very intriguing possibility in that race. But all the reasons you mentioned, a little bit of a shaky call, but I think if you're putting that multiple ticket together, you got to have this one on somewhere on your Rainbow Six ticket.
I took a stand against in terms of the Rainbow Six just because I wanted to keep it a little bit affordable, but the 3 and 8 is going to do it for me in the final leg of the sequence. I hope we get that far around. And who did you use in the final leg?
Well, I used those 3 horses in there, 3, 8, and 10, so we're in agreement in my pick 5 and everything, but I got to get through with Davia in race number 8. That's where I'm hanging my hat. You made a good case.
That's the tipping point there.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll
you went with the 12-11, so it looks like a little later on you'll know who wins that battle of the outside post positions.
It's a very interesting sequence indeed. We do have a $2.1 million carryover in the pick 6 today. Once again, we do have a really nice carryover in that rolling super high 5 that starts in race 1 today, $20,000. I expect those pools to get very high, and always fun wager.
Yeah, I mean, the Rainbow Six is getting up there in the stratosphere where money just keeps pouring in.
Yeah.
And
gets harder and harder to hit, too.
We have a 13-race card on Saturday. If it makes it to then, it's going to be well over $3 million.
Absolutely. It's a great racing card here today, and thank you for joining us on Gulfstream today. Races 1 through 11. We're going to take a quick break, and Larry Colmus will be up shortly with all those scratches and changes. Good luck.
Our day begins early.